What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Fans FC. And today, the topic of today's video is national teams no one is talking about as we enter this 2026 World Cup. With the current expansion of the World Cup going from 32 to 48, there's a lot of new blood that is entering into this for the first time. And quite honestly, as I kind of go deep into my research of some of the teams and some of these newer teams that are entering it for the first, I'm starting to realize like, man, the rest of the world really is getting better. It seems like scouting from in Europe as well as scouting in South America and North America has really, and even Japan and Asia has really grown the level of some of these national teams that way more so than we did even 20 years ago. I mean, having teams that like an Uzbekistan, for example, or um what's another Curaçao or Canada or something like that. It's just showing how the
Yeah.
level has risen in some of these, let's say, tier 3, tier 4 teams in the World Cup this year. But I'm gonna bounce it over to you, Will, first. What is one national team that no one is talking about that they need to keep their eye on in this
Woo!
upcoming World Cup?
I look at the list, there's a lot. The big one that jumps out to me is Argentina. Not en
No one's
I'm
talking
playing.
about them.
Nobody. I haven't heard peep about these guys, man. No, listen, I'm completely joking. I'm gonna keep it on a team that I had as one of my dark horses, and I wanna take it over to North Africa, dude. This is a team,
Okay.
they for me personally, played well. They were impressive in this past AFCON. Not obviously the full-on results, and I think they had a little bit more of an expectation going into the tournament, and even going later into the tournament, seeing how well that they played in the group stage. But I gotta go with the boys of Algeria, man. I've been riding hard on this team for quite some time. Obviously since the days of a 2014, Slimani and Riyad Mahrez, and these guys were balling out. But I looked at this team, dude, during the AFCON, and they just seem to be flying under the radar of so many people in world football. Obviously, looking at their group, it's not the most, I wouldn't say the most difficult group. It's still a tough group, obviously respecting an Austria and a Jordan, and Argentina. But still, this is a team that Algeria, I think they have a decently favorable group. They can potentially get a second, at worst, maybe a third place, and advance from there. This is a team, like I said, I just look at the roster, and they have a lot of guys playing in the top 5 leagues around the world. Obviously, I look at a Goody who played at Marseille, former ex player or ex teammate with Murillo, an Ait Nori over at Man City, a Bundi who controls the midfield. He's over at Nice, and then obviously a Muda over at Wolfsburg. So the team has a lot of talent and they have a lot of depth. And they have a lot of heart, and we obviously know their fans are going to show up and show out when it comes to this World Cup. But I really genuinely looking at Algeria, and I feel like I could see this is a team, like I said, going back to the question that you had asked, dude, is this is a team going underneath the radar. So many people, I just don't feel like the Algerians are getting the respect that they deserve. Yes, like I said, this AFCON was not perfect by no stretch of the imagination. They had some trouble. Obviously, there were problems, and understandably so. That was a tough loss against Nigeria. But yet again, though, I mean, Algeria is prolific. They look good. Obviously, dude, Haj Musa, the young kid, I mean, over at Feyenoord, I think this summer he's due for a big move. And I really think it's going to happen after this World Cup. So I could really see Algeria making some noise.
Yeah, not a bad pick, not a bad pick. For me, and I kind of briefly mentioned it earlier, I'm going with Uzbekistan. I think this is a team that could potentially set themselves up for, I'm not going to say some
Okay.
crazy Cinderella run like we saw in Morocco, but I think it's a team that could like kind of put a little bit of respect on their name, especially considering the group that they're going into. And that one of the big reasons why I think this is because they've just been disciplined defensively, like, really well. So, I have some stats right here. They've kept clean sheets in nearly half of their qualifying round matches, and then on top of that, obviously, we all know who their coach is, which I can't believe they even were able to get a guy like this, is Fabio Cannavaro, the legendary Italian center back who won the 2006 World Cup. And to me, I'm like, man, this is a perfect hire leading into this World Cup. This is a guy who clearly knows defense like very well, and is going to be able to fine tune this defense to really kind of hold it down against the likes of Portugal, who they have in their group this tournament. I they can make it like really, really interesting. And outside of that, I'm going to talk about some of the players that they have, which who would have thought that Uzbekistan would have some ballers like they do? Obviously, the biggest player that they have, he's a young guy. His name is Kuzanov. If you're a Manchester City fan, that probably sounds super familiar to you, formerly of Lens. He moved to Man City this past 2025 transfer window in the summer. And dude has just been, he's getting his time. Look, I'm not going to say he's a starter over there and he's elite, but this is a guy that they clearly rate very well, that Pep rates. And he's starting to get some minutes over there. He's looking good. He's playing well, and he's played well in qualifying. And then you have their all-time leading goal scorer in Shamur. I'm going to butcher this word. Shomurodov, who plays over in Istanbul. He is the leading goal scorer in this Turkish league. 15 goals, 4 assists, 19 goal contributions, leading the Turkish league. Like, dude, that is crazy. Obviously, he's a veteran over at Roma. I know that because I'm a big Serie A fan, so I remember seeing him. And then, they have another young kid who's playing in Moscow right now. He's a young creative winger, Fal Feyzuleve. I'm not even gonna try, but you know,
Balfuzele. Yeah.
Fal Fuzele. Dude's he looked really good in uh, Asian Cup, and they've looked really good considering that their World Cup qualifying group, they had a team like Iran in there where they got back-to-back draws, I believe, and they even tied on points in the group with the only reason of them getting second place is based off goal differential, which to me speaks volumes because I rate Iran very, very highly. I think this is a team that I could honestly throw into this video as being a team that no one's talking about, but is actually super talented. Um, Plot twist, I'm not actually bringing them in. But then also on top of that, if we look at their most recent friendlies for Uzbekistan, they got a 3-3 draw against Mexico, which in my book is pretty impressive considering that Mexico is a World Cup pedigree team that goes every single year. Obviously, they dominate the region that they're in. So I think this Uzbekistan team can really set themselves up to be a real spoiler. We all know that teams that can be really defensively solid are the ones that are able to kind of make a splash in these big tournaments and make some big upsets. And considering that one of their top opponents that they're going to have to face is Portugal, which is a team recently who's really, really struggled against the low block. I think this team can is built to kind of upset them. I mean, they have the attackers up top. They have the young players, the young fast players on the right back and the left back. They could potentially make it scary. I'm not going to say they're going to draw. At the end of the day, Portugal is leaps and bounds ahead of them in terms of depth and talent. But we've seen crazier things at the World Cup. And I think they have all the pieces to make a beautiful dish. They got all the ingredients, they got the flavors, they got the spices. They just got to cook it right, man. And I think Fabio Cannavaro is going to do a great job, man. He's going to get that pasta stirring. He's gonna, and I like this team a lot, man. I think they're going to be really fun to watch. And I think it's going to wake up a lot of. I think a lot of people are going to wake up to them this tournament.
Yeah, I like that. I like that shout. The biggest thing I will say on Uzbekistan, and the one thing that worries me just a little bit with the tournament, I know this is a little bit off the topic of kind of going under the radar for teams. I will say is it's just that tournament pedigree, that kind of tournament experience. Obviously, their first World Cup. This is a team they've done well in other and past Asian Cups, but they're not as prolific as like an Australia or Japan or a South Korea.
But
But
they got nothing to lose either. Versus the
that's
teams they're
true.
going against, that's
Yeah.
everything. They have so much pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. I personally I worry a little bit because I will say Uzbekistan did not get lucky with the draw like some other Asian teams did. They actually got very unlucky. They're going to be playing against a James Rodriguez and Shakira crowd, that are going to be going crazy. And then they're also playing, like you said, dude, earlier, they're going to be playing a Ronaldo, fanboy crowd the entire game. So the crowds are going to be against them. But I will say Uzbekistan is definitely an interesting team. Now, just want to say, dude, my second team that I really feel like can make some noise, and they're going under the radar. Not a Norway, obviously people are screaming and shouting their name on the streets. Not a Japan, not a yeah. You were one of
I
those
love
guys. You were one
Norway.
of
I
them.
love
Yeah,
Norway.
not a Japan. People are saying, I've been hearing for the last years that the Blue Samurais are gonna make anime great again, and they're going to take over world football, and they obviously are getting to that stage. They are a very, very prolific national team. But for me, this is a national team that I feel like comes to these tournaments and they always make the round of 16. They always get to the next stage. In the last Euros, they made a quarterfinals, went toe to toe with England, took them to PKs, and easily flip of the coin could have advanced through. And that's the beautiful boys of Switzerland, or should I say, the beautiful mountain men of the Swiss. This is a team that, dude, they're some dogs, man. They are some real dogs, and I just have to put respect because they go to these tournaments and they're not a team that just shows up and flops. You know, they're not like a Turkey A who a lot of times you believe, oh my gosh, they can make a quarterfinals. They don't get out of the group stage at a Euros. This is a team I'm looking at it, dude. Julian, last time they couldn't make it out of an international competition, a Euros or a World Cup, was 2010. And they in that World Cup defeated Spain, the eventual champions. So that World Cup wasn't even that bad for Switzerland. So this is a team that I just look at it. They're consistent, they're strong, they're powerful, they play well, they're a cohesive unit. I mean, dude, obviously the names, you start up top with the Brel Mbolo and you go all the way back to a Kobo, for Dortmund. So it's all over the field. Obviously, Granit Xhaka, Akinji, Ndoye at Nottingham Forest. So they have the talent. They have guys all over the top 5 leagues in the world. They have guys playing in good, strong, solid leagues, getting good minutes as well. Not just guys that are just playing at teams and not really playing much. No, these are guys that are getting big time minutes. So I really just have to say Switzerland is a team that not only can cause some noise. I personally believe they will go through, obviously, in their group with Italy, or excuse me, potentially Italy, Canada, and Qatar. I feel like the Swiss, man. This happens every cycle, dude. This is my personal feeling. Is we come up to a World Cup or we come up to a Euros, and we're kind of just like, oh yeah, Switzerland. They're pretty good.
They're a
You
very
know, I
quiet nation. They're very
yeah, I
quiet. They
mean,
they keep to themselves. I mean, it's literally Switzerland. They
dude, they're just neutral, man. They're just neutral. No pun intended. But
I
yeah,
don't wanna get involved. I'm just
yeah. But yeah,
Um,
no, this is just a team. They just take care of business. They just go in there comfortably, and it's never like I said, no pun intended. But this is just a team. You don't see them get overwhelmed by the moment. I have not seen that in recent years since I've watched Swiss football, and to see these guys in international tournaments, they play well, man. They're a good team.
yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. My team, you might think it's a little crazy that I'm saying that this is the team, but I'm saying it for a specific reason, and that is Senegal. I think a lot of people are underlooking this team because it's an African team. I think at the end of the day, African teams just don't get the same respect as a South American. And I don't even want to say South American. It's really just Argentina and Brazil, and then the top five, the top, or I don't know what, top six, seven in Europe. So like Senegal's a team that I think is really trying to like break that glass ceiling for African teams because we saw Morocco make it to a semifinal this past World Cup, but obviously they were kind of holding on for dear life in a lot of those games. And while it was an impressive and amazing feat of what they did, I think Senegal has the opportunity to take what they've done, what Morocco did, and actually like go after it. You know what I mean? Versus like feeling like a Morocco who's kind of holding on to it. And while they performed really well, this Senegal team I think pound for pound can compete with anybody in the world, and they proved it this African Cup of Nations. Even if we look at last summer, they beat England 3-1 in Nottingham against their starting 11. Like, this wasn't some, like granted, it's England and England's weird, but, like, at the end of the day, it's still England on their home turf. And this team, like, they're star-studded, like, top to bottom. Obviously, Sadio Mane is still, like, relevant, even though he's not at Liverpool or Bayern anymore. But Koulibaly, he still the captain, playing really well. This team just has so many players. Um, Having a guy like Nicholas Jackson, who's just a behemoth of a man who can do great hold up play, this team it just meshes super, super well. And I just feel like they're really built to really go after anybody in this league. And all the players on this team have seen the best. They've gone against the best. This isn't new to them. Even last World Cup, I thought they actually disappointed a little bit considering all the talent they have. And they kind of underperformed that World Cup. But I think this time coming off high on this Africa Cup of Nations, they're gonna be able to, like, really compete, and I think everybody's gonna be focusing on the Mbappe versus Erling Haaland battle with Norway and France. I think this is gonna be a chance for Senegal to kind of, like, surprise some people. I will say, like, every game in this group is going to be high scoring, high flying football because it's gonna be really fun. I wouldn't be surprised if they can take down a France, especially in the heat of wherever they're gonna be playing. Oh, well, they're gonna be playing in New Jersey. I have it right here. But nonetheless, like, I don't think they're gonna be scared of France. I think that England game was really important for them and their psyche and showing that they can do it. They can beat anybody. Like I said, it's a friendly, but it still matters at the end of the day. And yeah, I'm really curious
Yeah.
if they're going to get out of this group. It's going to be interesting. I think it's a super competitive one, but I think, like I said, all eyes are on Norway, France right now. And meanwhile, you got Senegal over here, like just waiting to attack.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, oddly enough, this is kind of a team, like you said. I think just the teams within this group, like you already kind of talked about with Norway and France, they're kind of just, Senegal, yeah, good team, overlooking. I like how you said that England game was good for their psyche. I think that Morocco game really good for their psyche as well.
Mhm.
Obviously, that game had a little bit of everything. The antics in that game were insane. That's a video for another day, whenever we chop it up. But yeah, dude, I will say Senegal is a team that mentally seems to be one of the strongest teams.
Yeah,
Obviously, a
I think
lot
the
of these
tournament
French
came at a good
guys,
time. The tournament came at a
yeah,
good time.
great time, really great time, and for them to win it, and obviously the way it went down and what happened, and the whole tournament, Senegal, I saw so many other guys out there mention it, and many Senegalese said it themselves as well. They just never looked afraid. They never looked scared in that tournament, and if Senegal plays the way they did, me personally, I really, really remember that game. They were just they were just all over the field and just taking. I mean, they were literally stealing candy from kids. It was incredible to see the way they were playing. So I will say, if Senegal can bring that type of energy to this World Cup, I wouldn't be shocked, like you said, dude, to see them get big time results.
Yeah, as if they can get out of that group and get into the knockout stage, I think they could take on anyone, quite honestly. I think they have the potential to do what Morocco did, but, like, in a more impressive way, if that makes sense. But anyways, if you don't have any other teams, I don't have any other teams. That is the end of this video. I wanna thank you guys for making it to the end, and if you enjoy more World Cup content, and you wanna see more videos just like this one, please feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.